Hi everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today is Vlogmas Day 6, and today I want to talk about getting triggered and what you can do about this. And the reason why I'm talking about this is really because in health and fitness, a lot of things that we do are dictated by our triggers, emotional triggers, psychological triggers, whatever you want to call them. For example, I have clients who, and myself, I've been there too, where, let's say their whole morning gets, jumbled up by some sort of event. Let's say they're late to school or their kids are sick. And because that event happened, their entire day spirals out of control. This is a really normal experience. I don't want to pretend like people shouldn't get triggered, but they do. And so I want to talk about some ways that I'm able to kind of pull myself back to reality when I'm spiraling out. And I want to talk about the different ways that we're triggered and how we can overcome them. Because for me, as someone who suffered for so long with bad body image, who suffered for so long with being extremely emotionally volatile and just reactive for a number of reasons that were not my own fault, I was triggered all the time by different people. And oftentimes I turned to food or restricted food to deal with those triggers. So I'm here. If you're in that boat, just know that you're not alone. And like I've been there. So I'm not here to judge anyone. I just want to dive deep into 4 common emotional or psychological triggers. And because these things might be holding you back. That's the real thing, is my triggers were holding me back. And I want to help you start to identify your triggers for whatever behavior it is that you want to overcome. And then I want to talk about like what we can do about those. Okay. Because once you resolve your triggers, you really start to unlock your best self. I would say that I think there's this misconception that you should never be triggered and that like the goal is to be never triggered. And I just think that's so dumb because we're human. Like things are going to throw us off. People are going to say comments that kind of rattle us a little bit. We're going to get triggered. The goal is not to never be triggered. The goal is to react differently to your triggers. So, one of the common triggers that comes up with my clients and that came up with me is a fear of failure. And this often comes up right when a client starts a program. So they'll be gung ho, they're excited, and then we get on a phone call and I go over their plan and they say, oh my gosh, what if I can't do this? What if it doesn't work? And this often like stops people from starting a fitness program to begin with, right? Think about going to the gym and people are like, and you're thinking, people are looking at me, I'm overweight, I don't know what I'm doing. That fear of failure is really a common trigger with people. And it can cause, like for me, whenever I fear failure, it's always paralysis by analysis for me. So I will then spiral into trying to fix every possible outcome, and I analyze so much that nothing ever gets done. So that's the first trigger, is a fear of failure. Now, one thing that I have to try and remember, and what I tell myself, and this is a mantra that I tell my clients, you only fail if you never get back up. So with fitness, there's going to be times, and we know this, like there's going to be times when you fall off the wagon. There's going to be times when you don't eat what you're supposed to. There's going to be times where you don't get your workout in when you were supposed to. And it's that fear of not being perfect that often triggers people to spiral into self sabotage. And even with work, like think about with work, you're wondering, oh my gosh, if I don't do this perfectly, I'm going to get fired. And a lot of times you're like, you know, there are consequences to not doing your job well, but you have to remember that the only people who ever succeed are people who failed. And especially as it relates to fitness, I'm a fit person, right? I fail all the time, you guys. Like sometimes I go to the gym and I'm meant to do, in my mind, I'm like, I'm going to get this workout done. It's going to be an hour and a half of amazingness. And then I get there and I'm 40 minutes in and I'm like, I'm going home, right? And that's considered technically a failure. For you, it might be like, oh, I said I was going to work out for an hour and I only got 30 minutes in. And that fear of failure will stop you from succeeding and stop you from reaching for your goals. So just remember that you it's okay to fail, especially when you're starting something new. It's okay to fail. Like I made a post a couple weeks ago that said, it's learn to be a baby giraffe. Like baby giraffes fall down so much when they're starting to walk and they look ugly while doing it. And so do we when we're trying something new. But developing a growth mindset is really key to like actually achieving a goal that you have and to overcoming triggers. Because the more you tell yourself that you've done something that you were afraid to do, and the more you overcome failures, the less fear of failure triggers you. Let me say that one more time. The more that you overcome your fear of failure by doing things and failing and getting back up, the less the fear of failure scares you. So I used to be scared to like upload videos on my channel. I used to be scared to like be public with my Instagram. I used to be scared to post my I quit teaching videos on my LinkedIn because I was like, oh my gosh, what are people gonna think? What if no one watches my video? That was like a big fear of failure. But then I realized, what if I'm not meant to post this video for people to see it? What if I meant to post this video for me to just overcome my fear? And that's what keeps you from that's what prevents you from actually um, falling into this trap of, oh, I can't do this because I'm afraid I'm going to fail. So just remember that, the other thing is that if you're a believer, God's plan for you includes resilience and growth. Like it always does. It always it always entails you getting back up every single time. You're going to have trouble. You're going to have failures in your journey. And it's really just about getting back up and maybe getting back up and doing something differently, not necessarily getting back up and doing the same thing over again. Okay, trigger number 2 is self doubt. And that can be such a silent self sabotage because it can often look like humility, right? Where we're like, I'm not worthy of this. I need more research. I need to do this. I need to do that. And when we do this, we give ourselves permission not to ever do anything. We can say, "Oh, I need to do more research. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to learn more. I need to read more." And in some cases, that's true, but in a lot of cases, you actually just need to go for the thing. You need to go for the whatever task you're supposed to do. You need to just go for it. And then in that, you find out whether or not you're really capable. But self-doubt is sneaky because in a lot of ways it's accurate, right? Let me talk about self-doubt in a different way. Sometimes people will make comments to you about whether or not you're capable of doing something or whether or not you should be doing something, and that will cause us to doubt ourselves. Like when I was quitting teaching, oh my gosh, the biggest trigger for me was, what if I fail? And that's kind of like 1 and 2. What if I'm actually not good enough as a coach, as a YouTuber, as a fitness influencer, whatever, to actually succeed? And people would say things that would bring that up in me. So they would be like, "Oh, you're quitting your job, all those benefits, all that pension, you should stay." I mean, meanwhile, I was like killing myself, literally stressed out, messing up my blood work as a teacher. And they would say, "Well, what about your pension? What about your retirement? What about your benefits?" And they would trigger, and I would be like, "Oh, I better not quit." And for years, you guys, that's why I did not quit, because they would trigger my fear of failure and trigger my sense of self-doubt. And I would say, "Oh, I'll wait, I'm not, oh yeah, they're right, I should make sure that that I have these benefits from this the state before I think about quitting or starting a new job." One of the things that helps me when I'm triggered and someone says something that maybe self-doubt creeps in is I ask myself if it's true or not. That's a big thing, you know, is asking yourself what is true and not just like hearing something and believing it. I mean, people would say all the time that, I wasn't good at something or I could never, make it as a business owner. And first of all, I didn't even know if it was true yet because I hadn't tried. But really asking myself, is this true? I had to say, wow, I don't know if it's true, and neither do you. And the other thing that helps, you guys know I talk about this all the time, is affirmations. really speaking truth to yourself. What is true about you? What is honest, the honest to goodness truth? Not what do have other people told you about you, but what do you believe about you that is honest, that is good, that is true? Because and the Bible gives us a lot of characters and quality traits, and if you're a believer, you have the Spirit, like you know what good qualities you have by the grace of God and what ones you don't and what things you're still working on. So ask yourself, what is true, instead of letting the trigger of self-doubt drive you to respond to someone in a way that you don't want to, or drive you to not act out your calling, because that's a big trigger, is self-doubt. A lot of people never accomplish what they want to accomplish by self-doubt, because someone said something, or they kept listening to the voices in their head that said, don't do it, you're not ready, you can't, watch out, be careful, blah 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 blah. Okay. Trigger number 3 is overwhelm, and this is a huge one that I've seen in my nutrition clients. When my nutrition clients are overwhelmed, they eat, they binge eat. Understanding that overwhelm is a trigger is huge. Okay. This is a common challenge, I think, particularly in our society, because the expectations of what we're capable to do is almost AI robotic level. Like there's this expectation that you will be a mom, raise your kids, go to work, be a boss babe, stay in shape, make meals for your family, be on this committee, be a good friend. Overwhelm is a real feeling. And I would say as a teacher, I felt that a lot. And even as a coach, sometimes I feel overwhelmed with like, what do I need to share with my clients? And overwhelm can also cause paralysis by analysis, because you're like, what do I do next? But what I've seen with my clients is that when they're overwhelmed, they tend to go eat, and they try and like reduce that emotion of overwhelm. That's a big trigger for a lot of people, and they don't realize it. They don't realize that they're being triggered by the amount of work that they have to do, or the amount of emotion that they're feeling in a moment. Like, let's say a big event happens. Maybe it's an event in your family or an event at your job, and the emotions, there's so many different emotions around it that you feel overwhelmed. You may not be able to identify. You may say like, I'm upset, but then I feel this, and then I feel this, and then I feel that. And you're not realizing that it's because you're feeling overwhelmed with the amount of things that are happening in your world, and and you don't really have a way to cope with it. So with overwhelm, this is a big one for me, because I am a huge procrastinator, and I procrastinate because I feel overwhelmed a lot. And so one of the things that I do is I literally have to prioritize my tasks. I allow myself to do 3 things a day. If I'm feeling good, I'll get 5 in. Like it's always a workout, it's always tending to my clients, and then it's an optional third thing. And I have to give myself those 3 to 5 things and then say everything else is fine. And then I do it the next day with the list that I need to do. So I'll then do like laundry on Tuesdays, film a couple videos on Tuesdays, get my workout in. Then I'll vacuum on Wednesdays. So I have to chunk out my life and be okay with not getting everything done, because the truth is, you're overwhelmed because you think you have to do it all, or you think you have to manage it all. This is especially true when it comes to emotions. Like there's this expectation that we place on ourselves that we should be able to handle our emotions and everyone else's. And then we don't know what to do with that. So we act out in maladaptive ways. And that was a big thing for me. Like I would be overwhelmed with my work, and then I'd be overwhelmed with what people were saying about me, and I'd be overwhelmed with the fact that I need to work out. And then I was like, wait a minute, I don't actually have to take any of everybody else's stuff on. I don't have to take on everybody else's stuff. I can take on my own stuff. I can compartmentalize their stuff for 30 minutes, and then I can move on with my life. And so dealing with overwhelm is going to be key. And that's a big trigger for a lot of people, especially here in the United States. It's going to be key in just unlocking what you can actually do in this world. And if you're someone who's on a weight loss journey, or you're on a health journey, and I just want you to think about when you're feeling this trigger of overwhelm, and just pull back for a second and go, okay, this is normal. I don't have to try and stop it. I can just, let me put things in boxes. What can I do right now? Okay. Number four, comparison. Comparison is a trap. We all know this, but comparison's sneaky because it shows up in different ways when it's a trigger. So we may be sitting in a work meeting, okay, and your boss says, "Oh, Jennifer has been working so hard on this and we're so excited and we're so thankful for her and she's been doing XYZ." And you know deep down inside that you've been doing way more work for her than her. And you're comparing her accolades to your accolades and the fact that you didn't get any. Huge trigger. Okay. Or you go into someone's house and you see all these things that they have and you do not, and you're triggered. You may not like feel bad, but you may think, oh, I need to work harder, or I need to do something differently. I need to change my life. And there's nothing wrong with like, um, I think motivation, using people as, inspiration. But when you start comparing, you're automatically losing. And this goes when you put yourself on the upside too. Like, so there's this thing where we can kind of compare ourselves to people who are not where we are and go, at least I'm not as bad as that person, you know? And that's not good either. That's not really a trigger, but that's a tangent. That's not good either because you want to be comparing yourself to God's standard, not necessarily the standard of someone else. But that's just a tangent. Oftentimes, when we're feeling like defensive and put on our backs, it's because we feel compared to whatever the standard is, not good enough. So if someone makes a comment to us, or we're in a situation where we're even using ourselves and comparing ourselves to some imaginary standard that we have, boom, triggered. And I've been there, particularly if, when I was in my health and fitness journey, when I first started and I was like really deep in the fitness industry, comparing myself to the way that other women look was big. It was big. And it would trigger me to, like, honestly, you guys, spiral, trigger warning, into maladaptive eating behaviors and to poor eating habits. Okay. I think for me, what really helps with comparison is remembering that my God's plan for my life is very specific. And while I can be inspired by other people, God is going to give me what God's going to give me. My job is to work hard and to pray about it. And his job is to give me what he's going to give me. So then I don't have to think about, oh, well, this is what they have and I need that. Nope, I don't. I actually don't. That was number four. Oh, good. So, what I want to say about triggers as it relates to health and fitness is, again, we're all going to be triggered in some way, shape, or form. And the best thing that you can do is just recognize that you're triggered. And this is really hard. I was literally just having a conversation with my friend about this before I hopped on this video, that you'll like watch yourself act out and you're like, what happened? I was triggered. But if you can, ask yourself, which one of these four triggers am I feeling right now? Am I feeling a fear of failure? Am I feeling self-doubt? Am I feeling overwhelmed? Or am I feeling like I'm being compared? Because these main four triggers, once you can like name them and label them, then you can go, oh, I'm being triggered by this right now. Let me go into my toolbox of what to do and how to fix this. So just know that triggers are a normal part of life. The goal is not to never be triggered. The goal is not to respond to our triggers negatively. I was someone who like lashed out and threw a fit and went into poor behavior as a result of being triggered. And now what I do is I can actually feel my blood boiling. And I'm like, okay, I'm being triggered. And I'll ask myself, what is it that I'm feeling right now? Is it the need to be right because I'm doubting myself? Is this person saying something that makes me think that I'm a failure? Am I feeling overwhelmed by what is being asked of me right now? Or am I comparing myself to this person and feeling insecure? Okay. Just remember that like overcoming emotional triggers is a journey. And as a fitness coach and a fellow believer, I just want to encourage you to remember to pray about your triggers too, and just ask God, hey, can you show me when I'm being triggered and help me to ask you to reveal what this is about so that I can relax And so I'm not so moved so easily by whatever is happening around me. And, stay the course. Don't be off the beaten path. When people are triggered, they like get off they're like, okay, I'm done because they're triggered. But remember that like you're going to be triggered in life, whatever journey you choose. So choose the journey that is the right one that God has for you, knowing that there's going to be triggers along the way, and keep striving to be great. Keep striving to be better. That's this whole life journey is about that. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is Vlogmas Day 6. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.